This conference is titled The Liberty Vote, which kind of seems presumptuous. Among the current presidential candidates, I wonder, who is the liberty candidate? Donald Trump? No. Hillary Clinton? No. I mean, even the question is vague. Americans can't even agree on what the word liberty means. To the Occupy Wall Street movement, liberty means taking from greedy banks and rich people and giving it to people who are so poor that they don't really have access to the benefits of American liberty. Alexis Goldstein says that. She was an activist for Occupy Wall Street, and she's got a point, right? If you're very poor, you don't have access to all the good parts of America that rich people have. But Patrice Lee of Generation Opportunity says, so what if there's some inequality? Government shouldn't try to force everything to be equal. We should care more about liberty. What do you mean?
That's absolutely right. So a lot of Americans feel angry because the system is rigged against them. I totally agree with that. When you look at corporate welfare, when you look at the protections that lots of big businesses and frankly some wealthy people are able to get through our tax code, you see how it's hard to be a poor person.
How about it being rigged against you because you're black and you're a woman?
Well, you know what? I think we have come pretty far in this nation, John, when it comes to equality for women and equality for people of color. But what we really need is opportunity. Don't try to give me a lift up. Let me be free in the marketplace.
Why not give you a lift up?
Well, because you know what? That says that I'm not good enough on my own merits. And believe it or not, I'm pretty good, and so are a lot of the young people in this room right now. So what we really need...
Alexis?
That the system is rigged, and I think it's rigged in favor of corporate interests against the individual. So Donald Trump, for example, is able to use the bankruptcy code to discharge debt that he owes his lenders 4 times in bankruptcy. But students that go broke are unable to discharge their student loans in bankruptcy.
Do you agree with Bernie Sanders, who says it's unfair? We got to redistribute.
Well, right now, a lot of the wealth is redistributed upwards, right? The wealthiest Americans pay a lower effective tax rate than the bottom 20% of Americans.
Let me jump in on that. The top 20% of earners pay about 86% of the personal income tax in this country.
But that doesn't take into account state and local taxes, and poor people pay a larger percentage of their income to state and local taxes.
So why don't we go to a flat tax? It's simple. Eliminate the loopholes and eliminate a lot of the ways that corporations are able to secure special privileges and special benefits, and it makes it easier for everyone to do their taxes. I mean, how many of you guys are going to be doing your taxes soon?
I would argue that wealthy people have more benefit from taxation, and therefore they should pay more taxes.
Can we move beyond just taxes and look at opportunity? Government inserts itself in the marketplace in so many ways and takes away opportunity for people, young people, to get in there, provide competition to some of the established companies.
Like?
For example, my makeup and my hair was done by a young entrepreneurial woman. She told me she had to spend 1,500 hours getting licensed. We have too much government regulation impeding someone from being able to flourish in the marketplace and create opportunities for themselves.
Alexis, you got a problem?
Certain sectors leads to cartels. Like you look at
lack of regulation.
Lack of regulation.
It's not too much.
Yes, I would argue that the lack of regulation.
Let's be polite
for example, internet service providers, most people don't have a choice. You have to stick with Comcast. You have to stick with Verizon, and that's because the government is not enforcing their antitrust laws to break up these cartels.
Let's talk about what Hillary says. There's unequal pay. Men make more than women. You women on average make 77 cents. That needs to be fixed by government?
So I think that government has a role to play in disclosure, for example. So the Obama administration...
They have this plan, require every big company report salary data based on race, gender. They're going to police it and fix it.
I worry about that. Number one, it's onerous for business. It's difficult for them to start collecting data on every single person based on ethnicity and gender and race.
Doing it,
and then to report it to the federal government, who then will go after them and sue them. It's going to turn into a shame game. And there's some nefarious motives that are at play that we may not be able to see right now.
They're only going to sue if they have a demonstrated case based on the data. They can't just sue arbitrarily.
And if women make less, that's proof that there's discrimination?
There is a systemic discrimination across a particular income area that
Maybe
people will
the
investigate.
men just took riskier jobs, made other choices.
But they are asking them to document it by the same job. And wouldn't you encourage that?
Well, what
Wouldn't you
about
guys wanna be
background or
able
how
to
much
say?
time they took off? Maybe the women stayed home, had kids. Aren't there differences between men and
There
women?
absolutely are. You
We
need to
don't value child work, right? Most of the time
And
that
the
women
government
take
should
off
make us
early.
value childbirth
Well,
by
don't you
paying
think-
women more?
Not childbirth, child care, child work providing for your family. But women actually do more work than men most of the time because it's
I
women
believe it.
disproportionately do the child care, the cooking, the cleaning. So I actually think women are working more than men.
And government should fix that.
I think government already has the laws on the books. If you want to repeal them, you can work through Congress to try to do that,
Yeah,
to
good luck with that.
prosecute discrimination.
Alexis, people on the left say you're not really free if you don't make a living wage. You agree?
I think making a living wage is important. We're a very wealthy country and we should be able to provide
What's
for
a
everybody
living
here.
wage?
So MIT actually has a great calculator. It's the living wage calculator, and I think $15 an hour is a good starting point if you have to pick a single number. I can't
Well, what
believe
if
people
she'd said
are
three?
paying people $15 an hour?
Should government pick any number? Patrice, that sounds so cruel.
Get government out of the way of trying to determine what the right wage is, and making sure that onerous government regulations is not stopping a person from creating opportunities for themselves as an entrepreneur or in the marketplace.
What's wrong with setting a floor?
When you're arbitrarily throwing out $15 an hour, $10 as the president had wanted, it sounds like, oh, this is a way to help poor people raise their families. That's a misnomer, because nobody is raising a family on $7 an hour, $7.25. It's just young people who are earning minimum wages.
No, that's completely untrue.
and using it then
75% of people who are making the minimum wage are grown people. They are adults. They are not teenagers. They are people raising families.
Why are you so cheap? Why $15? Why not $40?
I think that $15 an hour is a good place to start.
If the principle works that government can raise it, why not raise it more? It must hurt something at some point, right?
I think that you need to be able to provide for your family, and I think that that is
we
what
all agree
government
with
should
that,
be
but
able
why not
to
$100
achieve.
an hour?
Because I think the data bears out $15 an hour as a starting point so that you can raise a family comfortably, and I think that is what government should be trying to achieve.
And is that $15 an hour here in Washington, D.C. or San Francisco, or is it $15 an hour in Alabama?
Here's your chance to ask questions of Alexis and Patrice. Please come up to the microphone.
My question is, in regards to things like regulating the free market, making it not so free, how is it that we can regulate and legislate our economy, in your opinion, into prosperity?
Government is setting rules to make sure that people play fairly, and when they don't set guidelines, for example, Wall Street ran rampant. We had the 2008 financial crisis, and look, they're trying to make sure that the small upstart hedge funds don't break into the Wall Street cartel, and without regulation, that will continue.
Okay, next.
I'm a young aspiring entrepreneur, but unfortunately with all the regulations that we have in our government, I have a question that I think a lot of us have on our minds. When did it become a crime to be successful? I look at this regulation, what can I do?
I think that that's an overstatement. I think you can't break the law, and when corporations are fined by
Nobody
regulators,
even knows what the
it's
law
because
is
they
anymore.
break the
There are
law.
so many.
Well, I think So you don't think that HSBC should be fined when they launder money to drug cartels? You don't think that JP
Drugs should be
Morgan
legal.
should be fined?
And there's no laundering. It's just buying and selling. Let's go to the next question, please.
Now, among all of the free things that Bernie Sanders wants to give us, he wants to give us free college. And one thing that my peers are really looking at is the rising cost of college. So how can we reform the system? Do we need to reform the system of financial aid? What can we do to make college more manageable?
Telling us we'll give you free college is pandering to the youth vote. What we really need is to see the higher education disrupted in lots of different ways.
Alexis, you're shaking your head. Isn't that pandering to the youth?
Right now, we spend over $8 billion a year giving Pell Grants and GI Bill money to for-profit colleges who are failing left and right. Corinthian colleges
so
collapsed
kill it
into
all.
bankruptcy. You can redirect that into free public higher education. You need $15.
Which is just an extension of K-12, failed K-12 system. It's a K through 14 failing.
alternative to public universities, the for-profit college systems are failing left and
So
right. Their
profit's
stocks
bad.
are plummeting.
Profit's
The
bad.
model has
Publicly
been
run
proven
is good.
false. I would agree with it, yes.
We have
In the realm of education, yes, the for-profit model has failed.
For every dollar of federal spending, colleges and universities increase their costs by 55 to 65 cents. They know they have Washington shoveling dollars right into them, so they have no reason to compete and lower their costs. You talk about administrative costs, that's absolutely part of it. But let's talk about expanding what it means to be educated and a productive citizen in this economy. It doesn't necessarily mean a four-year degree. That's what we've been told. But there are lots of alternatives to a four-year degree that can position someone, a young person, really well. I'm an individual. I wanted to be treated as such.